Great. Well, welcome for the people who've joined. I'm the so I'm recording this video. I'm gonna put it on the website, which I'll share on the WhatsApp chat, so you'll be able to access it. But obviously, joining the meeting will allow you to ask questions at any time. If you have any sort of specific questions to do with maybe your own profile, I'm more than happy to answer if we have some time at the end of the meeting. So the reason why I wanted to sorry, we just have someone. Ilya, I have added you. I'm not sure. You might need to join with another profile because I have not. I can't see your request. So let's just check. Oops. I can't see that there's anybody requested to join the meeting. So I will be sure to send you the link for the video. Okay, so I'm going to crack on. So yeah, so the reason why I wanted to do this sort of presentation is because having used LinkedIn and social media for a while, I basically got my jobs through LinkedIn, and I think there's a huge importance in leveraging that avenue, especially for people who are in the architecture industry. Is such a visual kind of industry, so people want to see visually how to basically put themselves out there. So I'm not sure if anyone in the meeting has actually done a profile. Okay, sorry, someone is asking to join the meeting, and this is sort of a little bit disruptive. Give me a second. Okay. I'm sorry, let me just see if I can let everybody bypass the lobby. Okay, hopefully anyone in the lobby can join now. So I'll just continue. Okay, so essentially on LinkedIn, you can have it as your CV. It is an opportunity to actually use your profile to export and create your own CV from, or you can start populating stuff in it. So what I've been using it for personally is I use it kind of like my social media, as well as post certain things that I want the employer or potential employers to look at. So first of all, you have your LinkedIn profile here. You can view it as what like public would view it as, but I'm just going to start by showing you the sort of main profile. In here, you can essentially, it's separated into different sections. You have your kind of main page here, so you can make edits and add information that you want. So like your first name, last name, and so on. You can also put your position. So where you work at, is it your current position? So these are all essentially what you typically put in your CV. You can input the information here. And quite a useful one is adding a website. So I personally use Instagram as my website because I don't really want to maintain a website with the email and stuff like that. So I just use that, which I'm going to show you in a second. And then you can sort of input what that website is called. I just call it Portfolio. So one thing that I've mentioned is that you can actually use your LinkedIn to create your CV. Sometimes recruiters might actually download your CV, and if you want to see what it looks like, you select Save to PDF. And so this is what you would get. Obviously, it's not a pretty PDF, but this is great template to kind of use once you want to put your actual CV together. This has information about your contact details, about anything that you've put in your LinkedIn, any sort of summary information you've put in, your experience. So you can imagine once you start putting your actual pretty looking CV together, you can just export this PDF and copy some information and put it in, so you don't have to do it from scratch. So that's a neat thing that sometimes recruiters actually use to download and send it to others within the company. Before I kind of dive in into the LinkedIn, I just want to give you a little bit of context. So I've been using LinkedIn, I think, for a couple of years now, like maybe 8 years. But it's not about getting a lot of followers and following a lot of people. It's about following the right people. So for me, when I first wanted to try to get jobs, you know, in LinkedIn you can say apply to job and then apply, and some people apply for hundreds of jobs through LinkedIn but don't really get any response. And a huge reason for that is because simply you don't have enough stuff on your profile. So the way that I use LinkedIn is I linked visually my portfolio, as well as some information about any work experience that you've done. And so if you've ever done work experience I mean, to be honest, I haven't really done many work experience in architectural practice before I started. So if I show you here, this is where it starts. I was a sales assistant, so I put that in both French Connection, Dixon's. I did like 1 week work experience or 1 month work experience in a small practice. But then I basically sort of jumped straight in. But how did I? You might sort of ask yourself, like, how did I go from working in EE for 6 years into getting my first architectural job? And the way I did it was through LinkedIn. So you have sometimes recruiters contact you, but when you first set up your LinkedIn profile, you might actually not have anybody contacting you because you're still new, you haven't posted enough. So what I did is I started messaging people in practice, and I asked, you know, I just saw that you've just joined the practice. How's it going? Do you mind answering a few questions? Obviously, some people might ignore you, but some people might actually be quite useful. What I did is I messaged some people that were in my uni who just got a job, and I asked them, how did you manage to get a job? And they said, oh, I used the recruiter. And then they gave me the recruiter's name. So then I messaged the recruiter and I said, hi, I'm looking for a job. This is all the information. I sent him my portfolio, sent him everything. And then he started putting me in contact with actual architectural practices that sort of suits the kind of architecture I was interested in. And then there is when the company contacted me and said, we really like your portfolio. We'd like to give you an interview. And then through the recruiter, I got 3 interviews, got all the jobs, and then ended up you know, going for Howard Tompkins. And a really sort of important aspect to point out is this would have been so much more difficult had I not contacted a recruiter. And this would have even been more difficult if I didn't have any online presence, because if you just apply with a portfolio, it's just not really going to be as sort of enticing and as effective if you don't use your LinkedIn. And a really neat trick is when you do put in your experience, you can see that I have the description, so I have the role. I also have added images, and not many people know that you can do that. So once you edit your job, you'll be able to actually add media here. So if you add media, you can either add a link. So it might be a link to your portfolio, a link to a YouTube video, a link to anything really, an article. If someone is sort of posted you and things like that, you can add a link, or you can just add a media. And this views quite nicely on the profile because it kind of views it like that with the description, and then you can kind of flick through and see the different experiences. So I think that kind of works quite effectively, I think, to showcase some parts of your portfolio, but in a more structured way. So if the person viewing your profile are not interested in, for example, this kind of work experience, they might want to look at any other, so they can just flick through and have a look. Does anyone have any questions so far? I mean, feel free to just interrupt at any time, and then we can have a look. What I would say is I'm not quite sure who's at what stage in their sort of educational or professional career, but if you are still in university, I would highly recommend, you know, doing any sort of specific activities that are offered within the university. So, for example, University of Westminster, I was able to be a student representative for a year, and manage to get photo presenting, because this, you want to show the potential employers that you are confident and you would present in front of a big crowd. So that is quite useful to represent. I also did peer assistant learning. So this is on like part-time helping students, and you want to show some of the skills that you've learned during that time. So you can sort of input that information. So this is arguably the most important thing about your profile is your experience, but there's few other things that you can add that really improve your profile. One thing I've added is the featured, and this has my my Instagram. So I use LinkedIn to input some information, but it's really important to show you the Instagram account, because I've been using it as essentially my portfolio for, I don't know, like over 10, 15 years. And you don't need to have it for that long, but I would highly recommend using Instagram to actually promote your work and just have like that constant activity. So you can see I mean, I'm sure everybody has Instagram, but one thing what I do is just for visual clarity, I kind of use a grid system. So I post in threes. It's a bit of a nightmare trying to find 3 posts to post at a time, but it does visually make your profile, I think, a little bit better. So and also when you go in there, you can add extra information that explains, your project. And this basically acts like your profile, like your website. So I've had a few people approach me on LinkedIn for extra opportunity because they've seen my work on Instagram. And what I typically do is post on LinkedIn, say, if you want to find out more, have a look on Instagram. And this, I use it for, professional posts. Obviously stories might be a little bit different, but yeah, not to kind of dwell on this, but it's really important to have some version of a website, whether it's Instagram, actual website, a blog post, or whatever the case may be. So highly recommend doing that. And again, with when you're trying to make yourself as a good candidate for architectural practice, followers don't matter. It doesn't matter that you have like 15,000 followers on Instagram. I've had my account for years and barely reached 1,000. It's not about the followers, it's just about the right people following you. And that takes me to the point about who do you connect with. You can obviously find people that you're interested in and connect with all of them, but I wouldn't advise that. I would advise to connect to the right people at the right time. So for example, when I first set up my LinkedIn, I followed all the companies that I might be interested in, and then I maybe followed some of the people from HR, so I can message them on LinkedIn if needed, and I followed people that are with a similar role as me. So I followed a lot of people in part 1 when I was a part 1, and right now I'm in the sort of computational design field, and I'm starting to follow people in the computational design. If I had followed these people earlier, it would have been a little bit more difficult to actually connect and make use of that connection. So when you connect with somebody, it's not just following them, it's like, how do you somehow have an interaction with them that can help you and help them? So that's why connect with the right people at the right time. And I would emphasize recruiters, because recruiters are the ones that get you a job. Or, the way the recruiters work, they get paid if you get the job, which means they have an incentive to actually find you a job, a suitable job that you can stay in for a while. And so that leads me to sort of my, excuse me, I'm just going to drink some water. That leads me into how I got my current job. And this is slightly more interesting story, is that I didn't actually reach to recruiters. I wasn't looking for a job, but I always have this open to. This open to work allows recruiters to see that you might be open to opportunities. I would say even if you're currently working and you're happy with your job, you should always have open to, because open to allows recruiters to see that you might be open to an opportunity that could be better than the one that you have already. So that's something that I would highly recommend. Where did I get to? So yeah, open to. So currently, I'm happy with my current job, but I'm not looking for another job that is like mine. I'm looking for teaching opportunities. So that's where I have edited my open to actually show that I am interested in, like, you can edit it here. and you can say what kind of jobs you're interested in. So student teaching, undergraduate teaching, and things like that. So it's more of a teaching avenue. And if for you, depending on what you're looking at, you would say, I'm interested in part 2 jobs, I'm interested in part 1s, or whatever. So yeah, because I had this open to work, I still had messages from recruiters. Some messages, like some recruiters might be looking to get me a job, I don't know, in like another country or another type of job. And that's where I would kindly reply, thank you for considering me for the opportunity. I'm not looking at this at this current time. If something changes, I will contact you, because you want to keep a line of contact open with recruiters. Don't ignore them, because it's always good to have them on your side in case you happen to want to change career, change profession, and things like that. So because I had the open to, I got approached by somebody who used to work at the HMM, which is the current company I'm in, and they messaged me and they said, "Hi, Dana. I know you might be like still you like the current job that you're in, but I really think this opportunity might be suited for you. Would you be interested in finding out more?" And obviously that kind of intrigued me, because I was happy in my previous job, but I'm still open to opportunities. And that's when I realized that the HMM had so he'd sent my profile without necessarily getting my consent, which you don't need, because I have it on LinkedIn, which is great. And so he sent my profile to the company, and the company were interested, and that's how they sort of got me the interview and wanted me to work on their team. I did 3 interviews. Still, like, you in this day and age, you wouldn't just get a job without getting an interview, because they still want to see that you're a personable person, that you could work, like you could answer specific questions that relate to the job. But this is to show that I didn't actually go out of my way to find that job. I didn't even know that job existed. But the reason why I got approached is because I have the online presence, and it's so important. And it's not to say that my work is better than everybody else. No, there's so much more to that. So it's not just about the experience, it's about adding other stuff. So obviously your education, you put your education there. And then again, I've put in some sort of key images. You want to show that you might have some licenses that you got, some qualifications and things like that. So under here I have, for example, disclosing and barring services, which allows me to teach in schools, things like that. You can keep adding into your profile. And then projects. This is a new section that I added, and I want to start separating it into different software, because I'm an application specialist. I would want to put all the apps that I use and I'm sort of specialized in. So you can imagine this could be for you, depending on what you're interested in. You can alter it and change it to make it suitable. And volunteering is obviously really important, to show that you are open to volunteering and giving your time to help others. And that shows the employer that you are sort of doing things not just for money. So it's really important to show that. And you can do volunteering through your university, through your work. Your work will have volunteering programs, and if they don't, you could suggest that to them. So this is, for example, something I did with my work, where we gave a workshop for students. And then finally, the last few sections, just skills. So skills that you might have gotten at different roles, so you can input that here. And then if you speak any other languages and things like that. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. And so let's go to activities. So you can, I mean, I have been in situations where I've only used LinkedIn like once a year, like, barely posted on it, just use it for when I need it. But if you are in a position where you want to get your work out there, you want to promote yourself, I would highly recommend to just post, but not post in a cringy way. I mean, we've all done that, where we post certain things that might be a little bit kind of over the top. And I think it just takes a while to find your groove and how to actually approach that. And be careful. LinkedIn, anything that you do in LinkedIn could be visible to others. So if you like certain posts, it's not Instagram. So make sure that you like the post that you want the recruiters or potential companies to see that you're interested in. So you kind of got to play the game to kind of make it work. So what I have been lately doing is using LinkedIn a lot more because of the nature of my job. Since going to conferences and meeting people and networking with people, that side of the industry is very much present. So for me specifically, engaging on LinkedIn is quite important. It might not be the case for you, but it depends what you're interested in. If you do like networking, if you do like to meet new people, meet new people from different industries, I'd highly recommend engaging with your LinkedIn followers. So one thing I've realized after using LinkedIn for quite a while, a lot of people post these like process videos. So then I started doing that. You know, for example, I've used Blender for quite a while, and I think it makes quite interesting process videos because it kind of shows granularity and like I was doing particle simulation. How does this apply to you? So you might be at a stage where you've just finished studying. You might be at a stage where you're still studying. You might be at a stage where you're working in practice. Let's approach it different scenarios. If you're still a student, I would highly recommend recording process videos. So if you're modeling something that's quite complicated, record a video. Like there are some apps that you can use to. I use Snagit, which allows you to record a video whilst you're using your software. I wish I'd done this in my undergrad because I have so many great process videos. Even while you're like moving around in Rhino, editing materials, you can record a longer video and just make it time lapse. And this just shows the people viewing your profile not just the final work, it's just how did you get to that process, which is like gold if you'd recorded that. So now what I'm having to do is, because I didn't do that so much, I only focus on the final outcome. I had to go back into my old files and then just record videos from that. But thankfully, Blender kind of saves the state that you left it at, so I can replay some of the animations. So if you are at a stage where, even if you graduated a long time ago, I would highly recommend you get some extra content that you can start posting. If you're in a scenario where you're working, I have done this before. Whilst I was working in my previous company, I did have to get approval that I can post those things. But if you're working in practice, you can ask, you're going to have to pitch it like, I really think that we should engage and show other companies the kind of stuff we're doing. I think this will be highly beneficial. You kind of have to tread lightly, because in my previous company, when I was telling them that, they were a bit hesitant because they didn't want me to put myself out there too much because I might be poached, and so they didn't want me to post that much, which is not a great thing, because you don't want to feel like a company is holding you back from putting yourself out there. But managed to post these things only when I left. So some companies might not be so open to it, but if you've followed people from Fosters and Partners or Grimshaw and these like bigger companies, they're always posting. They're like, I mean, there's some great architects and computational designers that post process videos all the time. So in my previous company, these are some of the process videos. Call it, it's not process, but this is more a snapshot of some of the things that I've done for the company. So this is like me recording tutorial videos with thumbnails. I knew that thumbnails are not just good for the people watching the videos, it's actually good to then later promote the stuff that I've done. So you kind of have to think ahead with the stuff that you do. How is it going to translate and be communicated, maybe put in your portfolio when you apply for different jobs and things like that. And then I guess this is slightly of a process image to show some of the plugins I've done in Grasshopper to create railings in Rhino, for example. So yeah, and this is like lighting, looking at lighting in Revit and how to kind of customize IES profiles and things. But I think with this day and age, videos are a lot more videos are a lot more engaging, and I would highly recommend that if you have your old models, Rhino models, Grasshopper models, Revit models, anything that shows the process would be great. I'm just going to browse a little bit to show you what I mean, because I've gotten inspiration from others that post, but there's some, maybe I can show you. I can show you, you can have saved items. So you can save a post that you might want to later look at. Save post. So this is, for example, someone posted a video of how to align objects in Rhino. I mean, it's just very short videos, but it just shows you they've developed their own plugin and they want to share it with people. And so you can save posts and back at them. Yeah, Alice,
Yes, sorry.
did you?
Yeah, sorry. It's just me transferring over to the computer because I can't see your screen very well.
Oh, okay, no worries. I thought you
So
had a
ignore
question.
me, please. Sorry. Thank
No,
you.
no problem at all. This is a really, I mean, I would highly recommend following Ismail Salit. He works at Foster and Partners, architectural designer. I think he's also a computational designer, but his posts are very engaging. I mean, this is not Instagram. This isn't like get thousands or millions of views. This is getting the right views from the right people. Even if your video has 10 likes, if it's from the right people, that's all you need. Which is, I mean, personally, I really don't like this over obsession over like getting really sort of popular videos, because that kind of makes you feel a bit weird. Well, personally, so I think as long as you get the right people watching it. But this is an example of, he posts AI stuff, so how to change your AI image to a 3D model. So this got a lot of engagement, and you see it's a really short video just showing the process moving around in the model. So this is how you can increase your engagement. Again, highly recommend that. So this sort of covers the gist. I mean, if we were to recap, is to develop your profile. Even if you don't have work experience or very much to show, just dig deep. I mean, I'm sure you've done something that you might want to share about. I know in undergrad we did like a 1 week work experience with uni where we built something. So like try to find those photographs, try to create a post about it. So you might want to dig deep into past things and post them. But before you do that, just have a look at how others are posting so you can get an idea of how to kind of approach that. And I guess one final point that I wanted to point out is, it's so obvious when people use AI to write their posts. So be careful with that. So a lot of people kind of use a lot of emojis, and we've all done that. It's fine, but you got to be careful because LinkedIners are getting a little bit wary about people just using AI to create their posts. So find a balance. You can use AI to help you, but do try to be a little bit more authentic with the posts that you make and the information that you put. So any description that you put under your role, try to make it sound a little bit more like you. That's pretty much it. It's not going to be a long sort of presentation, but I did want to put it out there because genuinely, for people that joined later, it is just so important to have an online presence, and LinkedIn is the place for any future employers. And I must caveat that with saying it's not for all industries. So some industries might not even use LinkedIn, but in the architecture industry, it is highly used. And actually, not many of my colleagues have LinkedIn, but the directors and people who are upper management are the ones that are on LinkedIn the most. So keep that in mind. It's like you could catch the eyes of people who have actually high importance. And this is what's happened with this one, is that I've genuinely had job offers after going to the conference and linking them on LinkedIn. I've gotten them approach me, talk to me about my work and things like that. Rhino is going to publish some of my work on their magazine. And I'm not saying this to like as a show off or anything. I want everybody to be in the position to excel in their sort of progression in architecture, because I know how frustrating it can be trying to find the job, trying to find the right job without them, paying you too little and offering you weird sort of benefits. So just, yeah, I'd really recommend ask me questions, ask others on LinkedIn questions, follow them, view all their profile. And also there's some useful videos on YouTube that show you how to really set up your LinkedIn profile step by step. I didn't necessarily want to cover that because there's plenty out there. I just wanted to show you what worked for me and what could potentially work for you or anybody that you know that might need help with this process. So before I end the presentation, did anybody have any questions? And no question is dumb or anything like that. If you have any specific questions to you, let me see, there is a question in the chat, and feel free to add them in the chat if you can't unmute. That's a really good question. So you asked, how do you know which recruiters to approach? There are so many. There are so many. There are some recruiters that specialize in specific things. So for example, I had a recruiter that specialized in Dubai jobs. If you know that you want to work abroad, and you want to get a job in Dubai or in Saudi or whatever country, there are specific recruiters to find. Sometimes you search recruiters and they will put descriptions. So if I was to, I don't like recruiters. So if you search recruiters, they might come up with some people, so they could see like construction engineering management. So some of them specialize in different avenues. But what led me to find out about recruiters is asking somebody who got the job, how did you get the job? But not in an intrusive way. I just was like, I'm searching for a job. I'd really appreciate help. And then you can find recruiters. I will send on WhatsApp some recruiters that I've come across. I definitely want to use the WhatsApp group as a point to send all this information so that I can send the recruiter I used for my previous job, as well as potential recruiters depending on what you're looking at. But I would not just look at those, because some recruiters might not have some jobs at the moment. So look everywhere. And then if you set up your profile well enough, recruiters will be contacting you. So yeah, keep that in mind. Any other questions? What techniques do you use to get conferences and meet people in real life? This is a really good question. So Shape to Fabrication conference, and I'm gonna show you a post that I did. So if you are a people person and you really like to talk to people and engage with them, conferences are a great place to start. And what I would say is, before you get to conferences, there are events that you can go to. So if you go to Eventbrite, and I hope it doesn't show any other events that I've been to, but if you go to Eventbrite, you can follow some. So for example, there is Design and Technology User Group, and then this has like users from Revit and users from Rhino. Well, actually not Rhino, users from Revit and generally Revit related and Dynamo stuff. So these are free events that you can go to. This is like a miniature version of a conference, and there are different ones. There's plenty for architecture. I'm more kind of software related, but if you are interested in architecture stuff, the first thing I'd recommend is Clerkenwell Design Week. This is a great opportunity to meet people. So you can sign up for a free badge, and then you can view some of their events. So for example, they have like breakfast and social. Clerkenwell Design Week, if you don't know it, it's basically Clerkenwell area near Old Street. A lot of companies, architectural companies, and like sort of shops selling furniture and materials and things like that, open up their shops and do events. There's some really cool events, like you can get breakfast, you can do yoga with puppies, and you can like there's some evening events, but some of them you'll need to RSVP to. Generally, they're all free. So you can have a look at things that might interest you, and you can view it and inquire, or you can book now, and it could take you to the booking, and you can see what bookings are available. I'll be at some of them, so you might see me there. Definitely, this one has a lot of great options. So I will send the link to this one here, and I will answer the other questions in there whilst I finish with this one. We'll just have somebody joining. So additionally to Clerkenwell Design Week, so this one is like you meet others in companies in practice that walk around and go around, and it's such a nice time to be in that area. There's a lot of music, a lot of vibes, so that's one thing. What I'd recommend is, if you do go on Eventbrite, you will find architectural events. If you just search architecture, you'll find free versions of things. If you're interested in Rhino, Rhino user group. So there's this like Grasshopper Rhino user group that happens, I think every 2 months. So I'm gonna go to the next one. It's gonna be in Arab. They haven't posted it yet, but because in the conference I met the organizer for this event, and he sort of told me about sort of the intel. And that's the nice thing about networking with people, is that you are able to know related stuff to your industry quite nicely. This is the Shaped Fabrication. So the way that I knew about this conference is because, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people here from Westminster, you might have received an email from head of course or whatever that says we have some free tickets for you to attend. So then you can get those and you can attend these conferences. But if you're no longer, like, if this event is passed, and it happens every 2 years, for me, for this year, I ended up getting my own ticket because I got a student ticket because I was a student at the time and I wasn't in my current company. But if you're working in a company, and depending on your role, they might pay for you to go to the conference if it helps your sort of position. So there's some architectural conferences. I will send, I have like literally a whole, no, that's not it. I have a whole Excel with all the conferences happening, so I can send them over your way. But keep in mind, conferences are often expensive. So unless you get sponsored or your work pays for you, you might need to pay for yourself. But I wouldn't go out of your way to pay. I would say there's plenty of events to go to that are free that will allow you to network with the right people. But networking is not just going in there and say, hey, I'm a student, I'm looking for a job. No, you kind of want to sell yourself without selling yourself. So you want to talk about the things that you find interesting, what you're good at. And then that's when you need to have your LinkedIn, because then people will search you. I literally met like over 25 people in the conference on LinkedIn, and then literally just like exchange names, and then you find each other, and then you engage with your content. So prepare your LinkedIn before you go to events like that, because it really kind of sets in ground. Let me just look at the other questions. And honestly, like, I think questions are useful because it allows others to get an idea and like, yeah, ask any questions that you may have. When you get an event, so when you get to an event conference, how do you go about putting yourself out there? Do you generally know who is going, let them know you are coming via LinkedIn posting? Yeah, so let's sort of separate that a few bits. So if I show you what I did before attending the conference, so if I show you here, oh, one thing to point out. So let me just sort of backtrack. It was actually quite exciting at the time. So I posted this post to say, really looking forward to Shaped Fabrication workshop, digging into fundamentals of Rhino inside Revit. This workshop, I didn't know that was happening. And I was active on the Rhino forum. I don't know if you have been on the Rhino forums before, which is like Rhino Grasshopper forums. So I was posting on the Rhino forum, and literally someone from Rhino messaged me and was like, hey, you're asking really interesting questions. Where do you work? Would love to come to your office and have a chat and answer any questions you may have. And he literally came to our office, met me. He's like from America, but he'd come in for the conference. He came in, we connected on LinkedIn. He then told me, I'd highly recommend you come to this workshop. I'm giving that there. I met him at the workshop, and now we're like, great sort of like work connection. So now we have this back and forth talking about software and things like that. Again, putting yourself out there in a way that can catch people based on the skills that you have and the skills that you know. So that's a sort of great sort of circle that happened. And then from here, after the fact, so after attending the conference, I then posted about it, and then I tagged everybody, like all the sort of companies that attended, so I can get the engagement from them. And from there, I got Paul Cowell and other people who actually set up the conference repost the post, and it allowed other companies to then follow me. So this is how you engage with events. You don't just go to it and call it a day. You tell your followers that you are going to the event, and after you attend the event, you then post a recap of what you've done and how you've done and things like that. And that's why it's important to take pictures and documenting is so important. And then, so yeah, this guy, he works for Rhino, and he runs the magazine for Rhino. So he then, after I posted this, he then contacted me to post my work on a magazine. So it's literally a chain effect. You start somewhere, and if you do it right, it will lead to extra opportunities. And it's just like, it's it's a recipe, and it worked for me, and I know it worked for others, and I'd highly recommend others to do that as well. Yeah, Clerkenwell is fun. I think it's, you also get like free booze and a free food sometimes, and activities and stuff like that. Yeah, you don't want to appear desperate when you're going to the conferences, because they will see it. I think especially in people who are in architecture don't want to be sold to. So people hate when you try to sell yourself and be like, hey, I'm like great, I'm this, I'm that, can you give me an opportunity? No, like you never ask. You just want to show and not tell. Like this is so important. You want to show and not tell, because what you might think you're good, but others might think you're not. So you want to post the stuff, and someone will think your work is good, and that someone will give you the opportunity. But you don't want to start messaging people for opportunities and things like that. I think just be careful. You don't want to message begging for things. You want to message for advice for the right people. So it says you're incredibly confident, and that's something that many find difficult. I appreciate it is about one's personality, but it would be great if you could share some tips. My confidence came from working in retail. Like, I'll be completely frank with you. If you look on my experience, not here. If you look, I've literally worked in EE for almost 6 years. I've also worked in Currys. I think that's the most challenging industry to be in. Like, not challenging, but it kind of really tests your patience and tests your social skills. But these things are built up. Like, if you have done crits and like presented to clients and things like that, these will all build your confidence. And not everybody necessarily needs to be open and confident, because confidence comes through different mediums. I think for me, because I like to talk and present and talk to people and things like that, that's my avenue. Not everybody needs to be like that. I mean, some of the people in the conference are the quietest people you ever meet, but it's about meeting the right people and having the right conversations. So you don't need to be overly open and confident and posting and things like that, but you need to speak to the right people, and that's ultimately the key. You don't need to go outside of your comfort zone and change the way that you typically approach things. You just need to find your groove and ultimately connect with the right people. So that's the sort of tip I give, because I know a lot of people who are really, really quiet yet still really successful and things like that. It's not one recipe works for all kind of thing. Does anybody have any final questions before we end the call? And any questions are welcome. And Alice, thanks for asking the questions. I think hopefully this did help others, because I think they're great questions as well. So I see Ilya's typing, so we'll just wait for that one. Yeah, so if you've missed the first part of the meeting, I have recorded this, so I'm going to post it on the website. You'll also see it in this chat, so I will send it on the WhatsApp group to remind people where this will be posted. So not to worry, that should all be fine. I will do so. So in terms of, this is a presentation that is more about things that worked for me. I am aware that some people might have specific questions that relates to their own portfolio that they might not want to share with everybody. I will be doing sort of private consultations independently for each person. So if someone needs specific advice about CV or how to put your portfolio together, how to present, what to put, and things like that, I will be doing these sort of separate consultations, which I will post at some point about. But if you are in sort of rush or in need to get this soon because you're applying for jobs right now, do drop me a message, and then we can discuss that further. I think we've covered quite a bit so far. Yeah, I guess just a final reminder: if you don't have LinkedIn, definitely download it. And if you have Instagram, if it's your personal one, you can do a new one and set it to public, and then you can link it here and then start posting things. So if you also don't want to annoy your followers about how much you're posting, you can post a bunch of stuff, then follow people. So then you have a sort of essentially your website already created for you. So yeah, I think that sort of covers it. If you have any questions that you want to send me privately on WhatsApp, feel free, open to help. And I really hope that you've taken something useful from this and take it forward. So yeah, have a lovely rest of your weekend, and thank you everybody for joining. I will send a recap for this meeting soon. Let me just stop the recording.